good, family? This is Mr. Sencere. I want to welcome you to the first Late Night Traffic Report episode with Mr. Sencere and friends. To start this show off, I thought it was only right to introduce or to co-host this first show with my favorite girl, Kay Callie. Welcome her to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here and can't wait to get into our combo.
So, just to let you all know, the Late Night Traffic Report, it's totally different than the Sincerely Yours podcast. The late night show is more unfiltered, raw, uncut, but it's going to be a lot of storytelling. It's going to be talking about our lives. It's going to be talking about the things that we go through. And every show just won't be with Kay Callie and I. I'm going to have my friends, of course. We're going to be talking about things. We're going to have JoJo Flavor. We're going to have Mike Bayou. We're going to have a lot of different people to come and share their stories. And I think this is going to be a great outlet where we just can be open and honest and transparent and just talk about the things that's important to us individually and for the community. So tonight's topic, having Kay Callie here with me, I thought it was only right for us to talk about Black love and the state of Black love.
That's a good one.
Yeah, it is. And I know we've talked about this on the other podcast before. Yeah. But let's just try to focus on and give a more intimate, more insightful approach. Yeah. And, have an open dialogue about the state of Black love and the things, the misconceptions, the stereotypes. Yeah. Black women and Black men are definitely warring currently. Yes. It seems like we can't get on the same page. You and I, we've been together for about 20 years now.
Yeah, so let's cheers to us before we get started. Cheers to our Black.
I'll drink to that.
For sure. So, given that we've been together for almost 20 years now, and just looking back on the things that we've done, the things that we've accomplished, the things we've built, and we don't know a lot of Black couples around us that share that similar stories. Now, don't get it twisted. I'm not saying that we don't know happily married Black couples, because we do. We have friends, plenty of friends. But when you think about what's being, the propaganda that's being spread out about Black love and Black women feeling underappreciated and misunderstood, and Black men feeling equally unappreciated and misunderstood, where do we go from here? Because if we keep down this path, Black people are no longer procreating at a high level. If we keep going down this path, we will become a subculture. And, we've talked about this before, but just what's your intake on it? And, let's talk about the foundation first.
Yeah.
Right? And then we can kind of work our way up to the current state of Black love.
Well, I think the foundation is broken, Okay. I think we have to get back to a better foundation, but we also have to understand that our foundation is not going to look how it did in the past and be okay with that. It's not going to look that, women are in the home more. Obviously, women now we're, working, providing for our families, contributing to the household. So it's just going to look different. But I think we both men and women, we have to have mutual respect. And mutual respect, not just, I respect you, you respect me, but also respect for each of our plights, right? My plight as a Black woman is different than your plight as a Black male. There's some similarities, but there's some differences. And I don't think we come together enough, or we don't have enough appreciation for what each of us kind of go through on the day-to-day. And I know, you can't understand how it is to be a woman. I can't understand how it is to be a man. But we have to start having better appreciation and showing it. I think, you can say you appreciate someone, but if they don't believe you, they don't feel it, then I think that's what comes out. I also think we have to get, back, into church. I think we got to get, our family units have to be, woven. God has to be woven in there, whatever your faith is, some level of spirituality has to be grounded in your relationship. I think we have to get back to that. I also think probably going to be a weird thing to say. You got to get off of social media.
Yeah, good point. Social media is really driving and dictating our reality, right? And I don't want to recap and say things that we've already talked about on the Sincerely Yours podcast. But what I will say is, I think we got to get back to loving each other, understanding each other, respecting each other.
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, there is a strategic and tactical plan as far as driving division between the black man and the black woman. No matter if you like it or not, it's just facts, right? I think that, from a black man's perspective, some of the things that I see, when I talk to younger men, that, I provide mentorship or just have, open conversations with them, the disrespect that comes out of our black women, our youth mouth, especially our women. I mean, telling, men to, inviting men to, to penises and things that they don't have, just totally disrespectful. And, we talked about this, plenty of times. It's like there are no big mamas no more. There are no women in the house that's really giving them an example. When you think about it, when we talked about, where did the shift occur, what based on, like the segregation and the women entering the workforce at, an influx of high rate, that really kind of started eroding the black family, right? So with that being said, women go to school to get degrees, right? At least our women do, right? Other races go to schools to pick up a husband, and getting a degree is a cherry on the top, but their main focus is to pick up somebody to latch their wagon to somebody that's going someplace. You know what I mean? And we see this all the time. So many sisters complain and call people sellouts, and he must hate his mom. He hate black women. I don't think it's that. I think you won't check in for me when I didn't have my shit together. You won't check in for me when I was building. Like women, like black women, and look, I love black women, right? But y'all got to stop doing that. Y'all want an already assembled action figure. Y'all don't want to help build and put them together and test them, and you just want this complete package just to show up at your door. And the reality is, if they're a complete package, why are they showing up at your door when you're a broken package? You're an incomplete package. So, my advice to the young men that I talk to, this whole sense of thing about what you bring to the table and stuff, I don't think you can ask for more than you bring yourself. And I think that's the problem. You can't want a nigga in a Bentley and you skating around in a Civic or a Honda Accord. It just don't make sense.
Yeah. But I think I understand what you're saying, but I also think for women, even in that Honda Accord or whatever else she has, in our minds.
No. We're not talking about in your mind. We're talking about reality.
Yeah. And I think, too, it's societal, too. It's that the man is supposed to be the provider. So it's not to be looked at what I have. My material things are not factors necessarily in your decision. But
yes, and that's the problem there, right? And that's what I think young men need to start evaluating, right? Like as men, we don't care about your money. We don't care about your money. But I think,
let me make a point, because I guess that's why I'm saying that women have that mindset, is because, like you said, men don't care about your money.
That's not modern day.
Okay.
Right? Because if a sister, and look, I'm sure this may occur in other races, but we're just talking about black people, black love, right? Tonight. I think with a sister, when she gets all of these degrees and she goes into the workforce and she competes for everything that she has. But when it comes to a black man, she don't feel like she has to compete. Like competition is foreign. How can it be foreign when you can compete it in college? right? Or high school to college. Now you're in the workforce. You study, compete. But for to get a black man, an excellent black man, because that's what I'm talking about. I ain't talking about these subpar brothers. I'm talking about people that's out there competing, people that played the game the right way, people that's driving and impacting not only their household but their communities. These are the type of brothers I'm talking to. I'm talking about brothers that really got shit going on. If you do that, then why, when it turns to you, you don't think you have to compete for a man?
I think that in the end, you find out that you do have to. It's stiff competition, too.
Yes, especially, and the problem of it is everybody wants the same man.
And you're also competing with non-African American queens, too.
Oh, yeah, because look, they got the cheat code now.
Yep.
See, when they see Rashawn, right, or Shad, or Shan, or whoever, I'm just picking out a name, right? When they see him, right, they don't look at him, what he necessarily is at the moment. They look at him for the potential that he could be.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I think that's the advantage. Like, you all black women, you have to start seeing the potential in brothers. And look, there are some horror stories where it's a woman that got her stuff together, sister got her shit together, and she's fucking with a deadbeat loser type nigga, right? It is. It's fuck boys in all races, right? And those are real occasions. Yeah. But I don't think that's the majority, right? That's not the mass. So there's an exception to every rule. So what I'm saying is, I think how we get back together is, first of all, women need to understand you're not in competition with us, right? And, remember the T-shirts that I had, the downfall of a black man is the new modern woman, because she can do every fucking thing until she realizes she can't.
Well, I saw it was a good point. So I've seen and heard women kind of say that they feel that they were placed in positions where they can't be soft, where they can't let their guard down. And then when they do get a good man, they don't know what to do.
I mean, I think that's bullshit.
I kind of think it is too, because I know, like, if I was so hungry and then I get some food, I'm gonna know what to do.
You gonna fucking eat that shit.
You're gonna know what to do with it. But I think it goes back to years and years, and it's almost like a defense mechanism too, probably. And it's harder to break down that, and it's probably a defense mechanism too. Is this going to be really real? And if I let my guard down so low, is he going to hurt me? And I've been but I think so used to having that guard up.
But I think that's preconditioning, right? And I think being taught something in precondition is not necessarily the same thing. I think with black women, because it starts in the home, right? Mm-hmm. We're talking about, in most cases, generational scorned women, right? It probably started from their mom, or maybe even their grandmother, and they just got just around the house, year in, year out, just black women talking shit about black men. You know what I'm saying? Men ain't shit. Black men ain't shit. Go get your degree. You don't need no man for this. You don't need no man for that. Like, look, we heard that. We heard that before. We know how this movie ends. Yeah. That same girl can now look at her aunties, 55, 60, 70 years old, by themselves, or got a dog in a can. Yeah. Yeah. Right? You think about it, if you do the research in the numbers of how many people during COVID was fucking alone. Yeah. All these independent women, all these independent sisters.
And that led to a lot more depression.
Yeah.
That was... Yeah.
Because as human beings, right? We're not here to be on our own. We're not here to be alone. I don't care if man, woman, whatever. We are cultural. We are people that like to gather. We are people that like to socialize. Yeah. And, when all the hot girl summers are over, What's left? Yeah. What's left? You go on your phone, you look, scroll through your vacations, you went this place, that place, but then you look over to you ain't nobody in that fucking bed with you. Yeah. When you get sick, none of your friends gonna come by. All them chicks you shaking ass with on a camera, or fucking going to Jamaica, letting them niggas oil you and grease you up and all that stuff they do. You look if you look at the side of your fucking bed, it's you by your fucking self. And look, Lord forbid if you become ill.
Yeah.
Who's there?
Yeah. So, okay. So I have a short kind of story to kind of back up or to kind of add to what you're saying. And then after that, I want to kind of shift the narrative or shift the discussion on what can we do? Like, what do we need to do to kind of move forward? But let me tell you the story first. So I was out at a store doing some shopping, and I overheard it was an African American woman, older, but she was talking to her friend, and she was talking. I could tell they were talking about the woman's, the older woman's, let's just say love interest. You know, her boyfriend, someone she was dating, and she was, just talking about how he was such a good man, such a good man. He's so nice. He's so this, and even the friend echoed that and said, "Oh, he's so nice. He's this and that." But the woman at the end, she said, "But he's worrisome. He won't give me any space. He won't just let me be." And I also kind of could hear through the conversation that the woman had went through something personal, and so it appeared when I was listening that maybe the gentleman was actually trying to provide a little more comfort and support to you, but making a judgment, don't know the person, but being that the woman was older, I don't know if it made me think, has she been married before? Has she been, what types of relationships has she been to? And she was just so closed off in the way he was trying to show his love and support for her. She wasn't receiving it.
That's why I said earlier about being preconditioned.
Yeah.
And that's why it's a little different than being taught.
But she said he was a good man. He was nice. I mean, so it's like, what else do you want?
See, preconditioned means that you're adverse to everything, even if it's this very thing that you say you want
it. Yeah.
Right? And we're preconditioned as a people of Black people, like to a lot of things in this country, right? So yeah, I mean that's a very valid example, and it's this lady's story probably multiplied by 500,000, right? It's many women that have that same story. So let's talk about, before we talk about how to get it or give our perspective on how to get it back.
Yeah.
Right? Let's talk about a celebrity couple that's in the media right now.
Okay.
And, they were ambassadors or advocates of Black love, right? I'm talking about Papoose and Remy, right?
Okay.
Right. And since we live in an instantaneous world, right? We need instant gratification. We need validation. We need all that shit, right? Instant affirmation. What are your thoughts on that? And just before you give me your take, let me give you my perspective on it, right?
Because I need a little bit of education.
I know you don't. Yeah.
I don't follow as much pop culture as you do, but you definitely help me keep my ears to the street.
Synopsis of it real quickly, right? So, when we went to jail, Pap held it down. From all accounts, they said that he was there every day, making the trip up to sit with her the entire visit. Blah 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 blah.
How long was she in?
6-7 years, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, but regardless, right? So I think Pap was handling it like a G. I thought he was handling it like a man. Men, real men, you don't argue with no woman. You don't going back and forth, and you just a real man just handles himself differently than that, right? So salute to him. I thought he was handling himself accordingly, right? Given the fact that at the time we only knew that she had stepped out on him with a battle rapper that she was managing, but he finally broke his silence because she just kept doing things and perpetuating the situation and mad because he had moved on. But he talked about, not only did she sleep around, cheat on him with this battle rapper that really looks like his little ugliest little brother. So she has a type.
Well, she has a type.
Clearly she has a type, right?
I think he does too.
He does too. Yeah, he like hard chicks for real. But yeah, so long story short, she stepped out on him and pretty much was moving around the city, making him look like a chump, right? got this guy all up in his face, all up in their house, shaking his hand, and he digging her out and doing all this stuff. But then he goes on and tells a story that not only this wasn't the first time that she had cheated on him. She had cheated on him again before, and she cheated on him with her cellie. After the shorty got out of jail, she came to stay with him. He caught him in there, you know, doing what they do in front of his daughter while the daughter was on the bed. And the reason why I'm doing this, right, like, I'm not taking sides, right, because that's his version of the story. She has a how she moving. I kind of believe him. But regardless of all that, if a man held you down for 7-10 years, and look, we don't know if Pap stepped out while she was there, but there's been no woman to come forward or a guy coming forward and say that he was. You never know. You know. My point is, nobody's came forward and said that he was doing something wrong. So when you look, or if somebody, just a regular guy, regular nigga looks at this and says, "This is why I'm not fucking specifically with black women," right? And I know all women ain't the same.
Not at all.
Oh, but what I'm saying is, that's what's in social media right now. That's what's in the algorithm right now, as far as black love. And you got all these people saying, like, damn, he did all this for her. He held her down. He was faithful. And this is how she get out and cheat, treat him.
Yeah. So you kind of taking that as like she didn't obviously value him.
She didn't value
appreciate him.
Yes.
And what he, did for her, but more so she didn't appreciate what they had built and what they were continuing to,
And she was messy as fuck.
Yeah. But I don't think that's no offense to them. I don't think they're like a reflection of black love.
No.
Or the state of black love.
Well, I don't know about that, right? They were the advocates for it, right? They were the poster children for it. The reason why I brought that up is black men feel in how women are, more aggressive, more vocal about things, and acting kind of like a man. Okay. Nice guys finish last. And I think that's a prime example for him. Too nice. He was too nice, right?
I don't think so.
No, I know so. He was
he
too
did
nice.
The right thing, though.
No, she thought he was a fuckboy because if she respected him, women move based on how much respect they have for him.
But you know what? That tone and everything was set before she went in, though.
Yeah.
He was, things happen, and love is a risk.
For sure.
So, I think he did the right thing. At that point, there was nothing else for him to do but support his wife, hold her down. You know what I mean?
No.
She didn't reciprocate and return what she should have done.
He could have pushed a button on her ass, because when you think about how she got there, she's a bad decision maker.
That's true. But
you know what I'm saying? She's a bad decision maker.
But I think in marriage, people do make bad decisions. You can't.
People we do, but come on.
You can't always just leave someone because they made a bad decision.
Yeah, but you kind of can. I'm not saying for everything, but she did something stupid. Like how she got in.
So you're saying he was a bad decision maker too, then?
Clearly. And I love the fact that you said that risk, love is a risk. Yeah, and I think that's why, healthy relationships, you have to establish a risk tolerance. Yeah, you do. And you have to
get a little technical.
Risk acceptance. Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe he had a high risk tolerance.
But clearly he did. But what I'm saying is.
But I think it's not even that. I don't even think he saw that as a risk. Because of his love for her. I don't think he ever obviously now he knows, but I don't think in his mind that he ever thought that she would do anything but be loyal to him.
Here's why.
Because if he did, he wouldn't have done it.
Here's why their situation is relevant. For older people, maybe not, right? Or middle-aged people just older, right? Mm-hmm. But the youth looks at that and says, damn, he did everything right and still end up getting shitted on.
Yeah, that happens. I think it's a good lesson.
Hold on. I think what's even more valid is not for you and I, not for our age group, right? But for the shorties, people that's younger than us, right? we said at the top of the show, right? Everything is based off the social media.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So a young boy looking at that and saying, why the fuck would I sign up for that?
But I think
Hold on. Why would I sign up for that? And even if, in your opinion, she's not a representation of anything, she is representation for some people, right? Yeah. And they're looking at her and saying, what the fuck? Why would I marry a black chick? That's kind of where they're going. Why would I marry a black? I mean, because look, you got the whole red pill movement going on, and almost like they're hating women. But when you're saying like, damn, if the narrative is all across social media right now, remember her Papoose going back and forth, she cheated with this, all these, she's a bird, she's this and all this stuff. What I'm saying is, couple that with the red pill movement and these guys saying like, black women are the worst kind. Because some of them say that, right? It's not my opinion. Obviously, it's not my opinion, but I'm saying that's a narrative, right? You're mouthy, you're aggressive, you're not loyal, you're gold diggers, you this, you did all the negative shit that comes along with it, right? So they're looking like, because when they look online, you got Susie, you got all these other nationalities and races of women telling black men, come to us, we'll appreciate you, we'll do this, we'll do that, we'll do all these things. And look, I know that's bullshit because women are women. When it really gets down to it.
And I was gonna
let me just finish it. Women are women, right? And all women got some things with them, right? It's just the species, it's your DNA, your makeup, right? But what I'm saying is that is another example, another case for a young man, a young brother to say, I don't want to deal with that shit. Jada Pickett, I don't want to deal with that shit. I mean, the list can go on and on and on.
Okay. So on the flip side, you have to there are positive examples.
Yeah, but positivity is not being circulated through social media.
Denzel and Paula.
Yeah, I agree. But what I'm saying is, people ain't looking for it. They saying what's coming across their timeline. Positive shit don't come across your timeline. You got to go search. You got to be active. But it has to be intentional.
Right. And that's where we go back to what we said at the top of the hour. You can't. We need to go back to our role models, or who people we're looking up to need to be people in our communities, people that are around us, people that we know have our best interests and will pour into us.
But what happens to this young boy that grows up? His mom shitting on his dad, talking about his dad, taking his dad to court, doing all that rat shit that they do, right? That the hood rats do, right? And she's trying to do parental alienation, trying to keep her son from his dad. And at some point, he gets up and he just despises that because he's watched it. Yeah. A black woman tear down a black man. Because at some point, he's going to get of age and he's going to see, he's going to live and make his own decisions and see that the shit that she told him is not accurate, right?
I think that's fair, but I think what we as people, I think just as humankind, we have to go through life understanding that we cannot control everything, right? We only control our actions. We also, I think at a young age, I think we, even as, young as babies and toddlers, you learn that you're going to be disappointed, that bad things are going to happen. I think what we need to do, going back to your point, I think we need to get back to having models of healthy relationships in our homes. But we're not always blessed with that, right? So if you're not, I think you need to position yourself around other people that are positive reinforcements or positive. It's not about black, white. You can, if you choose to, go date outside your race or whatever. But whatever that is, it needs to be someone that you can grow and build with. I think black women, even black men, we get negative stereotypes. And I think what's happened is we are starting to read those negative stereotypes against each other. Because it's like they're the outside they say it, and now we're coming and we're saying it to each other. And we need to move past that. So, like I said at the beginning,
could it be some truth in those stereotypes, in those statements? Could it be some truth?
I stereotypes are stereotypes. So I think you need to get away from, because people are people and stereotypes are stereotypes. So I think we need to not do that. And I think you need to get to know people for who they are, build and grow with people that you see that you can do that with, and not just, like, we have to come with I hate to kind of say it this way, but you need to come with a clean heart. And I think if we don't get off social media scrolling, seeing, like, you are what you ingest into your mind. So if you spend hours scrolling, and then the algorithm starts to feed you what they know that you want to see. So if you want to see things about, women aren't this, and black women do this, and papoose, Remy cheating on papoose, all of this stuff, then it starts to feed you those things, and then that becomes your mindset and your mental space. It's especially detrimental and vulnerable for, like you're saying, for young people. When you're older and you have your own life experiences, you can kind of see that stuff, and you might be able to say, oh, that's not reality, because I know what my reality is. But for any person, a human person, if you ingest so many hours of that garbage, it will breed into your mind. I don't care who you are. Because one, why would you be feeding that much negativity into your mind? Like if you're watching something and it looks like, oh, this is so gory, or this is against my religion, what do? You immediately cut it off.
Okay.
Right? Because you know that is something that, but the point is, we sit there and watch negativity thing, and we even, like you're saying, the things that you're sharing, it's because, we've consumed it.
But do you think a man is online looking at all these women and saying that that's an upgrade? And even if he's saying in his mind, or he's thinking that thought in his mind, that he's going to divorce his wife because in pursuit of what could be. Women are actually doing that. Women go online and see all the trips and everybody getting flew out and all this
real.
And they go out there thinking that there's an upgrade waiting for them.
Right, and it's probably not. And the person getting flued out,
no.
It's probably not even getting flued out. They're flying out themselves.
It's not probably not. It's not. Yeah. And at a high rate, black women are divorcing their husbands to chase something that's not real.
Yeah.
Think about it. We talk about this in our circles all the time. People tend to, like, online, everybody's fucking winning. Nobody's losing. Right? So I do agree with you. We need to do, a day with our phones down. How many people would just completely self-destruct? Right? A lot. Right. I think for couples, I think that you probably do need to limit the amount of social media surfing that you're doing. And it's not really policing one another. You're right. There's a lot of negativity out there. Social media is the devil's playground. Right? It just is. And you just think about it. Think about that. Like you said, anything that you want, anything that you're looking for, you can go out there and get it. Or view it. I don't know about actually getting you.
And then once you search it up one time, then
stays an algorithm.
Then the algorithm just starts feeding it to you, and then that becomes enters into your mental space. So I think what we have to do to move forward, I think the older generation, I think we need to give back, start feeding more positivity and more mentorship to younger people, to people that are starting out, building their relationships, trying to move to marriage. I think whatever, support is not that, we're perfect, but I think whatever support, if there's things that you and I have gone through and we could mentor and give advice. Now, it's just advice. It's, take it or leave it. But I think just when you think about, us and over our relationship, I really feel like at the beginning, other than, maybe just, a few people, like we didn't have a lot of like role models or support that we could look at and say, okay, this is appears to be a positive, relationship. I think as we start to grow and we start to grow in our, our lives, our careers and things like that, we've started to surround ourselves and have been able to attract and surround ourselves by people that we can, see and have, relationships that we can, not that are perfect, but that have experiences that we haven't, that we may haven't gone through and that can kind of help us grow and that can kind of be like a, air quotes, like mentors to us. But I think, starting off not having that, that's hard.
Yeah, it is. And I think if you come from a family background, like my family dynamic, came from a single parent home. My mom was 17 when she had me. My father was, let's just say, not available, right? And, going through things. The first time I actually ever saw like a true black family or a true black marriage outside of, the Cosby Show on TV, I was 17 years old. And it kind of blew my mind to see this black family, you know, husband, wife, two kids living under the same roof, and for the most part, happy. I had never witnessed that, um, in person ever in my life. And I think that, it's a lot of black men that share a similar story to me, right?
Yeah.
Coming from those surroundings. And, you know, our moms is our first love. And then when that relationship sours, it kind of really sets the stage for, a lot of trials and tribulations for you from a relationship perspective, right? Because I do believe your relationship is not right with your mom. I'm not saying that you can't overcome it because I have, but if your relationship not right with your mom, then it's hard for you to really lock in and focus in and loving a woman, right? It just is, because there's a lot of trauma and pain and stuff in those relationships. But to your point, I think that as you mature and when you start to build your own tribe, because I think that's most importantly, right? I think when you become mature and you start to build things, you need to build your own tribe, right? And it may not be blood family, but they become your tribe. They become your family because you have a collection of like-minded people and people that inspire you, people that can counsel you, people that can give you a different POV or point of different perspective. And I think that when you have that, and I think most importantly in any relationship, you got to be able to communicate, right? You got to communicate the things, even the hard things,
Yeah.
right? And that's something that I haven't been the best at over the duration of our relationship, and I'm still working on that. But communication is key, and I think to have a healthy relationship, any relationship, you gotta be open for communication. You gotta have trust. You gotta be willing to be vulnerable. And I think for black men, I think that's a challenge for us at this state. And the reason why I said that is because we're expected to be all these things, right? And vulnerable is not one. If we show emotions, then we're a bitch ass nigga, right? If we say that we feel some sort of way about something or something touched us, right? Or something hurt us, you're a bitch ass nigga. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like you got to be all these things. You got to be superhuman. You got to be a superhero. But then when I come to you and I'm trying to lay it out, Lord, we have associates, acquaintances, what have you, that tell stories about a man that cried and looking at him like, why you crying, you bitch? You know what I'm saying? So my point is,
Yeah.
I think that in order for black men and black women to come together, I love what you said earlier in the segment about understanding one another's plight, right?
Yeah.
Um, just because a man is open, one, you should be very appreciative of that. because most black men, we don't know how to express ourselves, and if we do to you, then that means that we feel extremely comfortable and safe with you, and you shouldn't take that. You shouldn't. That shouldn't deduct points from our manhood if we open up to you and come to you and tell you how I feel. Yeah. But I think again, for black men and black women, I love what on the past episode of the Sincerely Yours podcast, they said we have to look each other in the eye and say, I see you.
Yep. Yeah.
I see you. And you know what I mean? And those are more than just words. Mm-hmm. What does that really mean? Like, you have to really see a person. That's the good, the bad, the ugly, the indifferent. That's everything. And you have to be able to work together and drive synergy if you're going to be with somebody, right? Yeah. I was joking, and I'll definitely let you, respond.
Let me talk.
But when I was talking about risk acceptance and risk tolerance and all that, that's just really what it really comes down to, right? Love is risky business. You know what I mean? It's very risky business, right? Yeah. There is no 50-50, right? The reality of it is there's going to be one person out of the couple that loves the other person more than they may love them. It's just how it goes. But the beauty in that is at some point during the duration of that relationship, it may shift, right? It may shift, right? I think for men, men have been taught for so long, like they have to be the adorer, right? You gotta adore your wife and do, but I think the times, I don't even think times have changed. I think there's always been a balance of that. I think men should be the adored, right?
I think it should be both.
No, well, that's your perspective. This is my perspective, right? I think men should be the adored, right? And I think it's science behind that. We're not going to break that down on this show
because we don't have enough time for all of that.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, I think that at different stages and phases of the relationship, one's going to do more. One's going to have more of a pull on his or her plate than the other, and it doesn't have to be financially. It could be mentally. It could be emotionally. It could be a host of different things.
Can I say what you said maybe in a different way? And it may. I'm going to say it in this way now because I think it's the same thing. That at different stages in the relationship, your needs change. And I think what has to happen, and I think what doesn't always happen in relationships, is that we need to adjust to support those.
That's not what I was saying.
Okay. And what that can look like is I may need you to pour into me a little more during a season, and then a season may come around where you may need me to pour a little more into you to support you. I think what happens is, as a couple, sometimes your seasons can happen at the same time, and you each may not be available, or feel that you're available, or feel that you have the space, or have it to carve out to give to that other person, because you're looking for me to give it to you, and I'm looking for you to give it to me. And sometimes I think it's just okay to say, I only have 20% today. I only have 50% today, or whatever that looks like. And that's where it goes back to communication, like you said.
Let me ask you a question. Do you think the man could be the prize?
Yeah, I think the man is the prize. And I also think the woman is the prize. I think when you
That's a good politically correct answer.
I think it is. I don't think it is. I know it is, because the point is, when you find that person that brings to your life what you know and feel that no one else will or can, and I feel like I feel like with the relationships that most people are striving for is when each other feel that person is that for them, right? I'm that for you, you that for me. So, but I think what happens is, and I think this is what you're saying, is
No. I'm very clear what I said.
women don't pour into shower men the way that men are like, oh baby, let me get this, let me sweep you off your, men want to be pampered, men want to be treated like a bad bitch.
Yeah.
Right? I get that, but
from time to time, yeah, it wouldn't hurt.
Right, but I think you do need to do, you need to pour and shower into your partner, period. And I will say, I do think from a woman's perspective, I don't think we're always taught that. I think sometimes we're just taught that we're just supposed to be the taker.
And that's the problem, right?
And I do.
So even if you are taught that,
when
you get with a real one, when you get with a prize, right? When you get with a man that elevates your life, your social status, your area code, your zip code.
Can I say it this way?
No.
What if it's just a man who just maybe he's not elevating maybe he's just taking care of you. He's working a blue collar 9-to-5 job, and y'all go to Burger King not Burger King. I think they're out of
he can. You cut me off. My point was, yes, that's still elevation.
Yep.
He's elevated you in the sense that you know that you can depend on him. He's elevated you in the sense that you don't have to worry about him as far as paying whatever bills he may pay, even if you're the breadwinner. Okay. That's elevation. These are things you don't have to worry about. Those are things he's taken off your plate, right? Mm-hmm. So it doesn't always mean like financial, right, or from a monetary perspective. It's a peace of mind. He's elevated you that you know you don't have to get out there and cut the grass. You don't have to take out the trash. You don't have to wash your car. You don't have to pump your gas. Mm-hmm. That's elevation. Okay. And see, I think a lot of women, and I'm going to just say it, I think a lot of black women take those things for granted, right? I think a lot of black women do take those things for granted in the current state that we're in. Because, look, I always laugh, like when you ask a single woman, what's your ideal guy? What do you want, right? Mm-hmm. So they have this elaborate list. And everybody's list is the same, pretty much. Everybody don't want 32 flavors. They want 2 flavors. 1 or 2 flavors. Because when you go and you listen to the description that they give, it's damn near identical. And here's my point that I'm making, right? Men, we do like flavors, right? We do. We want them all, right? A man will date and marry a woman that doesn't bring a fifth of what he has, right? But women are taught, most of them, is to try to go up, hypergamy, to date up and out of your standards, right? Let's just be honest. That's really what it comes down to. My point, to bring it all the way home when I'm talking about elevation, right? Women tend to disregard the small things, right? When I said earlier, talking about you want a guy with a Bentley, but you only drive a Honda Accord or a Civic or whatever the case may be. While it is true that men don't necessarily give a fuck about what you make, what you drive, right? But there is also another part of that. We don't care about what you drive, but then if you do happen to drive something better than that, then you can't disrespect me because you do drive something better. If you drive a Bentley, I have a Bentley, whatever the case may be, then that doesn't necessarily mean that you can talk to me in any type of way. That don't necessarily mean that you can, really like be confrontational.
So, okay. So then why not? Okay, if that's true, and they shouldn't do that. But
you didn't let me finish. But go ahead.
I was going to say women will tend to kind of, maybe, boss up, feel, that they boss up.
Yeah, but what are you bossing up for?
I mean, I guess what I was going to say.
What are you bossing? We're not in competition. And that's the point that I'm really trying to make. At the end of the day, I think women, you really need to understand what you qualify for, number one, right? And I know a lot of women don't like that. I know women don't like that when we talk in our circles. But everybody don't have a fucking black card in their pocket or their wallet or pocketbook, right? Everybody don't live in a gated community, right? Right? So we know as a society, there's a qualification for certain things. And everybody can understand the logic for that, right? I can't live in $1 million home plus $1 million home or more because I don't fucking make $1 million or I can't afford it. I can't drive whatever it is that I want to drive because I can't afford it. I can't get this black card, right? Or this Amex because my credit score is not high enough. Why can't we take those same principles when it gets to the dating market, right? You might want a 6'6" nigga. You might want a 6 foot tall nigga, 6-pack, the most interesting man in the fucking world, but you don't qualify.
Well, I think qualify is a word you could use, but I think.
What do you mean?
I think the market handles that itself.
It does.
You know,
But that's my point. The market does.
You don't get it.
The market, yeah, look.
You know, you get what you can get, and what you
the
don't
market
get,
has
you
a
won't
way of
get.
balancing everything,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
not, right? And the reason why I say or not, that's why you have a higher percentage of women that's alone right now. Think about it. We know them. And we'll call no names, but we know them. It's because they haven't accepted what the market has told them. They haven't accepted what the market has made clear as day to them.
And I think what now we're kind of venturing into other territory, and
because we're going to tie it back in.
I'm obviously not a dating coach, but advice I would give I think you should just have your kind of non-negotiables, of course, but I think you should kind of let things kind of happen fluidly and organically. Go out, have good times, put yourself in different environments to attract.
What do you mean having good times? What does good times mean?
I mean, have fun. What
does fun mean?
I mean, don't sulk in the fact that you're single while you're single. Like, because one, if you come across as someone who's not happy about life, you may not attract. That's what I mean. I mean, enjoy life. That's what I mean.
You think you can enjoy life single and alone?
Yes, you can.
Would you like to experience that and try?
Well, you mean you think you should? But my point is, if you stay at home, you're not going to find anybody. That's what I mean. And then if you go out with a bad attitude, you're not going to attract the right person. That's what I mean. I mean, enjoy life, because the point is, life is short. You may want to get a husband, but you may die tomorrow. So I would think I'm going to enjoy my life that I know that I'm living right now until I get that. But what I was saying is, I'm going to piggyback on something somewhat of what you were saying, is I think we do for dating. I think we have to, if you're getting in a space where, it's been a little bit, haven't found what you're looking for, I think, you gotta, I don't see anything wrong with, like, going to, like, sourcing, like, a matchmaker or something. I mean, I know maybe a little off, but what I'm saying is, the point is someone that can help you, because I'm going to tie it back in. You're saying the qualification things. My point is, you're maybe looking in the wrong places. You may be looking for...
you have unrealistic expectations.
Right, and I think sometimes people need... And I think the reason why I said like matchmaker, those type of things, because I think those people where they're good at what they do, they will have a way of kind of laying that out and kind of show, okay, so if you're a 50-year-old woman, but you think that, you're going to get a 30-year-old guy.
Oh, you can get him, but it's not going to be for a long term.
Okay, let me finish. But you think you want to get a 50-year-old guy, a 30-year-old guy.
Yeah, smash and dash.
You can get him, but he'll do that. But also for long term, you also have to have money. You
got to pay to play.
But I think some people just, I want him to be, physically this, physically that, and all of that stuff. And that's fine. But I think you just have to kind of be realistic. And maybe you don't have to go as far as like getting a matchmaker, but I think you need to be realistic and have some reflection about, because I also think what happens in life, I think this happens to all of us as we start to age. I don't think the aging process like catches up with us like all at the same time. It's like, you move from 20, 30, 40 or whatever, but sometimes you're still stuck at 30 in your mind. You know what I mean? But you're 50, but you're still stuck at 30. So you think that everything that you thought at 30 you was going to get and do, even let's say your body still looks kind of good, that goes to your head even more, but you're still 50.
Let's do this. Let's do this before we close. Wrap it up, right? Let's each of us, but we're going to switch. And what I mean by switch is, I want you to give young men. I want you to give men advice about what they should do if they want to find a good wife or get married.
Okay.
And I'm going to tell women what I think they should do.
And how old is this man?
Well,
I hate to do this. I know you're going to hate this. I'm going to do it anyway. How old is he?
See.
And this
trying to make it more.
Why
don't you just give advice to the opposite sex?
Okay.
It's a wide age range from the youngest man, 20 in his 20s, to a man that's in his 50s. And I'm going to do the same.
Okay. Well, I'm going to speak more to, because I think that's the generation that we can help more, or not help, but you know what I mean, that can.
Let's start out with the younger generation, and then let's give the older generations 2 tips.
Okay. So for younger, I'm going to say this gentleman in my mind is someone who has just finished college.
Okay.
He's
early 20s.
He's early 20s, just starting out. Okay.
We set the stage, right? So we're talking to a young woman in her 20s, early 20s, and a young man in his 20s.
Okay.
Going to give them maybe 3 tips that they should do.
So for the guy, focus on your financial stability.
All right.
Building that.
For the young ladies, take advantage of your youth. Once you get older, it's all downhill from there.
Don't be fooled by a big butt and a smile.
Young ladies, you have to be intentional and strategic. Stop running your numbers up on guys that you know that's not going to marry you, or on the flip side, that you have no intentions of marrying.
That's a good one. I think actually something that should have probably been the first thing is gain mentorship. Gain mentorship for your career, spiritual, or your spiritual health, and also, just an overall, kind of life coach. But I think it's also very important to have and build mentorships along the way. And I think for young people, I will also say, listen. I mean, I think sometimes when you're younger and the younger generation, things are done differently. I get that. But some things don't change, right? Some things don't change. So even if you don't understand it today, or you don't think it's a good thing today, still listen, because those things and those gems that people tell you along the way, it may not make sense right now. Sometimes, we kind of push stuff away not because we don't, think it to be true, but sometimes it's because we don't understand it, and it's okay. And then if you don't understand something, ask.
Young ladies, just be mindful of the things that you say and the things that you do when encountering a young man. Be mindful, be open-minded, and just be sympathetic, as we said earlier, to his plight and his journey, and look in the potential of the man, not who he currently is. So my tip for the young kings, the young boys in the world, never reduce or ignore your purpose in the pursuit of chasing a woman. What I mean by that is work on yourself, In your 20s, you don't, yes, have fun. But some point in your 20s, you're going to have to transition. You're going to have to step off the scene. What do I mean by that? You're not going to be going out as much. You're going to be focused. You're going to be driven. You're going to have direction in your life, right? There's no rush to compete with a man in his 40s or 50s because you can't. He has a head start. He's more mature. He's more financially stable. Be on your purpose and don't lose sight of what your goals are and why you're here over a woman, right? Have your fun, but again, stay on your purpose. Keep your head on a swivel and know that you might have to fade to black and go off the scene and reemerge as a much better man. It's nothing wrong with that because what you do in your 20s affect your 30s, what you do in your 30s affect your 40s, so forth and so on.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice. I think it also applies to women too. I think the thing that you said about youth, women are, seen and are, visualized, right? Our appearance is very important not only to us, but it's to others. But as you get older, how that changes, I think also impacts, how we view ourselves sometimes. It also impacts, how others see us too. So I think, while you are young, while that's an asset, you'll be seen in certain ways, that won't always last. So always I think understanding what you bring to the table, who you are, and understand your value and your self-worth aside from your physical appearance. And honestly, try to attract men that, of course men, they're attracted to you because how you look. But you want to be with someone that's not the main thing. They have to get to know you and love you and want you for who you are because today, tomorrow, anything could happen with looks. So I think that's really important. So I think what you said as far as just sometimes you gotta, lay the groundwork, for, what's to come while you're 20 to what's going to be in your 30s and then so on and so on. I think it's really important to do that.
Really quick before we close,
We've
what's your advice to the 40-year-old, 50-year-old that just still in the game, won't retire, won't throw their head in?
The men
And women.
You mean they don't want to get married or
No, they want to get married. They still playing the game.
Okay.
Playing the game.
So there's no towel. They're not trying to throw up a towel.
They can throw in the game. They could throw in the game, meaning humbling yourself.
Oh, okay.
Realizing that.
I think it starts with self-reflection. I think if they, depending on where they are in life and if they've been in past relationships, I think, the impact that past relationships have on you sometimes is an understatement.
So I think that, for those in the 40, 50-year-old group, age group, that, you still want to get married or you're still looking for Mr. Right or Mrs. Right, I think you really need to do deep self-reflection, right? I think that you need to understand that you're no longer in your 20s. I think you both need to understand, well, especially on the woman's side, and look, I know this is not going to be popular, but your SMV goes down as you age. What's your SMV? That's your sexual market value. It just does. I think at some point you're going to have to lower I don't even want to say that because from a man's perspective, that's offensive. You're not lowering standards. What you're doing is creating a realistic checklist, right? Most people are not walking around looking like they looked when they was in their 20s. So shit is dropped, flipped, rolled, all those things that happen when you're seasoned, right? So what I would suggest you do is come up with a realistic list. And if you got 10 items on your list, you prioritize that list, right? Those 10 items on your list, you prioritize them. And if you're 40, 50 and above, you probably need to settle if you get 5 out of the 10 things on the That's just a reality. Whereas men are slightly different. Women hate this, but it just is. Men are like bottles of wine. We age well. We can make more finance. We can make more money.
Age like fine wine.
Age like fine wine. That's just the thing. I mean, based on your earning potential, you can do these things. That's why you can see a 50-year-old man with a 25-year-old, 27-year-old. I'm not saying it's right, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
I just think that women need to be more realistic. And, when the things that you want, you need to separate wants from needs.
Yeah.
And I think once a woman really does that, like, you're going to have to make some exceptions to the rules. It just is what it is. And I think if you do that, I think you can obtain your desired outcome. But if not, then like Kevin Samuel said, when you hit the 40, 50, yeah, I had to bring him up. Sorry. But he was right. Your shit's going on Goodwill. And then, the next stage is you're going to have to give it away. So while you still have some value on it and able to attract someone, I think you need to humble yourself. I think you need to have a realistic checklist and just look at the more important things in life. It doesn't matter if a guy is a bodybuilder or 6 feet tall or blah, blah, blah. All the irrelevant shit that most women have on their checklist. How does a man treat you? Can he protect you? Can he guide you and give you direction? Can he change a tire? Can he cut your grass? Does he have stable employment? He ain't got to be making 100,000, 6 figures or more. Does he have steady employment? Can he take care of himself and won't be a burden on you? These are fair things to ask for. But all that other stuff, I think you need to omit that from your list. You need to strike it on your list, because if you're 40, 50 and you've been a hot girl for 20, 30 years, you've done a lot. And all that shit that you're looking for, he's probably can't give to you. Or even if he can, men like to be the first. We like to give you experiences that you never had. So again, you got to humble yourself and come up with a more realistic list to achieve desired outcomes.
Interesting. I think that we got to take it even a step further. I think people have to stop and really ask themselves, why do they want to get married? Why?
Yeah, that's something that we ask. Yeah. I ask, like, what you think it's going to give you a superpower? It's harder being married than single.
And I think some people aren't realistic about that, and they think, and I think maybe that's sometimes why marriages sometimes don't last when they get like bumps in the road, because I don't think that like people sign up for the rough part.
I think some people go into marriage expecting to get divorced. Yeah. There's actually statistics on that. Like, some people go into marriage expecting divorce. Like, if it don't work out, I'll only be around for a year, 2 years.
Well, that means that they're not willing to go through the rough parts to support my point.
Yeah.
But I think, especially when I speak in more talking to people that are like in their 30s, 40s, 50s, that probably 40s, 50s, that are looking to get married, because getting married in your 20s and 30s looks different than getting married in your 40s and 50s.
For sure.
So what you want. So I think you need to always reevaluate. And I think sometimes that goes back to the list, right? So you're still hanging on to that same 20-year-old list. And I think sometimes people do, men and women. I know you've been saying a lot of stuff about women, but men have unrealistic lists too.
I don't think men necessarily have unrealistic lists, because men can always just go get a younger woman that has most of those things.
So why are some men unmarried then that want to be?
I think that's
what I'm talking about. I think you're talking about if they can go get it, then they go get it, and boom, case closed.
I really don't think it's a lot of men that want to be married that's not married.
So that's what you feel. Okay.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, because it can be done. You see what I'm saying?
Okay.
No, do you understand?
I mean, I can see from just
I think any man that really wants to be married,
I can see
think they do ultimately get married.
I can see with the ratio how that could be the case, because so there's probably more women that are seeking it and not getting. I understand that, but I also think that sometimes men are unrealistic. they're unrealistic, but what you're saying, they obtain what they think they should seek.
But I think I think it's a difference.
But that may not be what they need.
I think it's a difference, and the distinction has to be made. Mm-hmm. There's men that say they want to be married, they really don't want to be married. Then there's men that say they want to be married, they really want to be married. A man who really wants to be married, he goes out and seeks and finds him a good woman. Men that say they want to be married, they use that to probably get in women panties and to play games and do all those things. Really have no intentions on ever saying I do. So it's different. Like when a man, it's easy, right? Like when a man says, this is something I want to do, I do it. Just like you and I. When I said, I'm ready to get married, we got married. Yes?
But it wasn't like you just, I wanted to too.
But what I'm saying, it didn't happen to where I wanted to get married. Yeah, that's how it went. But anyway.
Okay, that's a story for another day.
But that's what I'm saying. Like if a man really wants to do it, then he's going to, men are persistent. Well, men are very persistent at things they want.
That's a good point. So I think when you say things like that, I do think that's true. So I always think women that stick around for long periods of time, waiting on men to do things and, make it official with them and stuff like that. I think men know right off whether they want you or not. And even if they don't have the whatever it is, they don't have the money and the stability or whatever, like you just said, they will find a way. If it's something, they're not going to let you go if they have deemed you are what
they're looking for.
They want. So I think sometimes women need to just be willing to take an L right now to set yourself up for a win in the future. And I think sometimes we stick around for things too long because what men will do is they will send mixed messages. They'll give you just enough to make you think like, oh yeah, they'll say this today and do something different, the next day. But in the end, you need to believe his actions. Because if his actions are, if you have stated you want to be married, this is what you want, and you're 4, 5, 6 years into the relationship, to me, it's just me. Even if you marry me in year 7, I feel like you just did that because I wore you down, not because you wanted to.
Well, that's a perspective on it. I'm going to double down on what I said. I think if a man wants to be married, then that's what he's going to become. I think if you're the one for that man, you'll be the first one to know it.
Yeah.
It won't be any wondering. It won't be any, I don't know. It won't be any of that. You'll be the first to know.
Yeah. I agree. And I think we just have to be going back. I think people just, before they get married, you have to be realistic about what you're seeking to get out of this. Just like when you start a job, you want the job, you want the job probably because, you need money or you just really want to work at the company or whatever. But then, that's what they sold you on, the job description and all this. And they said, I'll be able to do this and they're going to pay me $100,000, a year. So cool. But then when you get into the job, it's still the opportunity to but even before you take the job, let me say, when you're in a job interview, you really need to understand and start asking the questions of, do I really want this? Or am I just driven by these factors, pressures to have a job because I need money and all of that stuff. And I know it might sound, but it's how it relates is even with marriage. Sometimes people are just striving for it because of societal pressures to get married, or you're 40, you don't have any kids and you're not married. So that makes you feel less valued. That's as a woman, but a man, oh, you hot stuff. You 40 and you're not married. The man is hot stuff. The woman is, what, she's like at a yard sale or something?
So before we go, that's a good place.
Now he's ready to go.
That's a good place to part the conversation. But before we go, what's the state of Black love?
It's in a rough place, but I still have hope. But it's in a rough place.
So what I would say, the state of Black love it's in progress. We're having a conversation. Not quite sure we're understanding one another. We're having dialogue. I think it'll be in our best interest to come to a common place, establish common ground, create a lexicon that we all can understand, speak the same language. Because we're saying the same things, we're just communicating it differently. And something that I've noticed from the man's perspective and from the woman's perspective, you immediately get offensive, start blaming one another. Niggas ain't shit, bitches ain't shit. I mean, all these things. I just think we need to come to the party unarmed. And I think once we get to that place, we can advance and get Black love back on track and in the direction that it needs. Okay, Callie, this was a great conversation. Thank you for coming on for the first show.
Of course.
I think you set a very high standard for my next guest. So we're going to close and leave it out. State of Black love.